examine your life, as you examine the decisions that you make, as you examine the course and the direction that your life is going, are you more likely to see a direct-to-video story or a feature film? What are you more likely to see? When you were in high school and graduating, or you were in college and graduating, and you knew exactly what you wanted to do in life, when you were faced with those decisions that could either go option A, which were easy and safe, or option B, but actually totally made you get where you wanted to go, what direction did you go? What did you do? Maybe even relationally. Are you afraid of commitment? Are you afraid of committing to somebody? Are you in a marriage right now, and the easiest thing to do is going to walk out on it and just leave the other person in the dust, rather than take the hard decision, which is like, we're going to just hunker down and try and get this thing put back together. What about in the home? What kind of husband or wife are you? What kind of mom or dad? Maybe even on a personal level. Is there an adventure that you've always wanted to take, but you just always felt like it wasn't never a great time, or the money just never seemed to make sense, but you've just been putting it off, or maybe you're like me on some mornings where the alarm goes off and you know you're going to work out, but you just hit snooze instead and stay in bed. What story are you writing with your life? He wants you to kick that habit that you just keep clinging onto. God, He wants you to restore the relationships that seem to be afraid of not getting any better. He wants you to let go of that grudge that's so easy to hold on to. Ladies, you have a boyfriend that you know you need to dump, and God wants you to do that. Some of you are staying in debt when you shouldn't. Some of you moms, you have attitudes with your kids that you should drop. And some of you fathers, you're so quick to get angry and have your temper flare up. And God ultimately wants you to stop that. He wants you to drop it. And you know that that's what you need to do. God is putting that on your heart. But it's really hard to take those next steps. And why is that? Because ultimately, we don't actually know what the final conclusion is going to be if we go with the harder route. We could try it and it could blow up in our face. We could go that direction and, we might not get the raise. We might not get the promotion like we thought we were going to. But my question is this. Are you willing to pay whatever price is needed to live a life with no regrets? Are you willing to do the hard thing, the hard decision, even if it means it might cost you something? And it says in verse 11, they entered the house and saw the child with his mother Mary. They bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasure chest and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route, for God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. Once again, so as you examine your life, as you look at the story that you're writing, with the opportunities that you have, the option A's and the option B's, when you look at the story you're writing, the legacy that you're leaving to your kids and your grandkids and your great-grandkids, what can we learn from this story about the wise men? What's applicable to us even to this day? Well, I've got some observations I'd like to share with you. The first is this. The wise men didn't have all the answers, but they followed the ones that they had. The wise men didn't have all the answers, but they followed the ones that they had. What was their proof? 600-year-old documents and a star. Think about that. They had 600-year-old documents and a star. Most of us don't trust scientific findings from the 90s anymore, right? Like, we don't trust medical and, health. We used to have 4 basic food groups. What happened to that, right? We don't even say that anymore. We used to have a food pyramid. This is like the 90s. We don't even trust that to this day. These documents are 600 years old. They've got those, and they've got a star. But God put it on their heart that this is the truth. This is what they need to find. And similarly, a lot of you have in mind exactly what your next step needs to be in your faith journey as well as your personal journey. And you know that's what you need to do, but you're not 100% sure how everything else is going to line up to make it happen. And some of us are so frozen in fear that we're unwilling to take that right next step because we don't think we have all the answers. But I think the same thing is true for the wise men as true for us today. That you might not have all the answers. You might not know the Bible backwards and forwards. You might not know every single detail to every situation. But God doesn't want you frozen in fear. He wants you to step out on faith and keep following, even if you don't have all the answers. The wise men didn't have all the answers, but you should follow the ones that you have. The second thing is this. They kept going even when their expectations and reality weren't identical. They kept going even when their expectations and reality weren't identical. They didn't find a king, they found an insignificant baby. They didn't find a royal family, they found a working class teenage mom. They didn't find a nation in upheaval, they found that the king had no idea what they were even talking about. Their expectations and reality, they weren't identical, but they kept going. Similarly for us. A lot of us know what that next step is, and we're going to take that next step, and things are not going to come up roses for us. And the third thing is this. They believed so strongly that they were willing to sacrifice. They believed that this was what they were looking for so strongly, they were willing to sacrifice. Of course, we know they gave the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh, and these were very expensive gifts. I didn't realize this until I did some research in the last couple of weeks. But they believed so strongly that they were willing to sacrifice for it. And the same is true for us. All worship requires a sacrifice. What is that next step that God's been putting on your heart? What is that next step with Him that He's been asking you to take? Who is that person that you know you need to talk to about Jesus? What is that really hard decision to give up some sort of sin or some sort of temptation that you just keep putting off and keep putting off and keep putting off? Then I'm going to ask you this. What are you willing to give up to live a life with no regrets?